Hiya and welcome to our online wine tasting tutorial. Today we talk about acidity and tannins. Now, if you remember from my last video, the one about palate, the one that ended the wine tasting process, I mentioned acidity and tannins. I also said I was going to talk about them. I was going to make a video specifically for them. So this is what I'm trying to do, what I'll be doing today. Before I do that, I want to actually spend a few words and talk about alcohol content in a bottle of wine. I've seen a few videos and I read a few blog posts saying that wines with too much alcohol should be disregarded. Now, for me, that is completely wrong. The same way you don't judge a book by its cover, you shouldn't really be judging a wine by its alcohol content. The alcohol content is only a characteristic of the wine, and if the alcohol content is balanced by the acidity, whether it is 17%, 16%, it won't make any difference. The other thing to bear in mind is that the country where the wine comes from. Now, you all know Italy, and you know that climate change is affecting everyone. So you've seen, for example, red wines from England. It was unthinkable only a few years ago. Alcohol content, German wine is going up. The same thing is happening for Italy. Italy is becoming more and more challenging for winemakers to make wine because weather is becoming more and more extreme. Some are becoming more and more hot with less rain. So it is really challenging. And you see across the board, the alcohol content has gone up. Whether you drink a white wine from the Dolomites or from Valle d'Aosta, so from the mountains down to Sicily, it's very difficult now, almost rare, to find a white wine, for example, which is lower than 12.5%. Red wines, they're now around the 13.5 to 14% alcohol. Wine from the south of Italy, from Abruzzo, the region I'm from, you can find Montepulciano, which are 14.5%. Puglia, plenty of alcohol content, Primitivo 14.5, 15. Again, so the alcohol content should never be taken on its own. To judge a wine, you don't really want to buy a wine because of its alcohol content or discard a wine because of it. So it's an indication. It tells you if the wine, you know that the country is a kind of warm country, it's a sunny country, then the alcohol content is meant to be there. Winemaker can't really do much about it. You can try to play with the harvesting, anticipating the harvesting slightly, but they are very, very kind of. They only got that much. They can only do that much because the weather is there. The grape needs to get to fully ripeness. If it doesn't get there, then there's probably going to be too much acidity and not enough alcohol content. So it's becoming more and more difficult. And in fact, they are now using different ways, systems to decide when it's time to harvest the grape. So never judge a wine because of alcohol content, and don't be scared. Because if the wine is well made, you wouldn't even taste the 17% alcohol, unless you're having a few glasses, then you're probably gonna taste it, but it's gonna make you asleep for a few hours at least. Or if it is, on the other side, if it is 12%, and if it is poorly made, you can taste the alcohol probably more on the 12% than on the 17%. So just be careful whenever you buy a wine, and don't judge a wine because of the alcohol content. Okay, so after the quick parenthesis about alcohol content, now briefly tannins and acidity. So what are tannins? Tannins are chemical substance found in all vegetables, including grapes. And in the grapes, they are found in the skin and in the stalk. So if you know the winemaking process, you know that we harvest the grape. It's made of harvesting the grape, then separating the juice from the skin and the stalk, and then fermenting them. Now, if you're making white wine, we normally do not ferment the white wine. We only ferment the juice. We don't ferment the white wine with the skins or the salt. We only do that in a very few occasions, even though now it's becoming more of a trend because of the orange wine. And we can do another video just on orange wine, and we'll be tasting an orange wine. Or if for the red wine, to get the color red, even for the rosé, we need to ferment the juice with the skins and the stalk. Now, the quantity of tannins is different depending on the grapes. There are grapes that got more. For example, an example is Sangiovese and Nebbiolo. They got plenty. On the other side, a grape that has less could be the Merlot, or is it a grain from Trentino. By fermenting the grape, the juice with the skins and the stalks, we get the tannins in the wine. The other way of having tannins or adding tannins to the wine is by aging the wine in barrels. The wood contains the tannins, and even here, depending on which wood we use, there's a different quantity for the tannins released into the wine. And the other reason, the other rationale used by the winemaker is the size of the barrel. Bigger barrel, less tannins. Smaller barrel, more tannins in the wine. That also tells us the aged white wine, they got tannins. Okay, what tannins are? Tannins are important for the conservation of the wine. So when the wine is too young, we tend to have tannins very aggressive. Basically, tannins are the astringency. We feel the tannins feeling the astringency in our mouth, and specifically on our gums. So sometimes we drink a wine where we feel too many tannins and really tannic, and that would be an indication that either the wine is too young or it's just a wine poorly made. By aging the wine, by leaving the wine in the bar before drinking it, that way the tannins kind of soften until the wine becomes, those tannins becomes smooth, so-called smooth, and the wine becomes a pleasure, a joy to drink. Now, for example, if I taste this wine, which I've chosen the Piedi Rosso from Vesuvio. I have some tannin, but not many. The wine is fine now. It's beautiful to drink. It's already a joy to drink. Yeah, you do have some tannins, but they are very gentle, very delicate, so and not aggressive. What will surprise me from this one is the acidity. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to the white wine and the acidity. So what is the acidity? Is basically one of the acid in the wine. The main acid in the wine is tartaric acid, and every wine got acidity. More or less, but every single wine, even the red wines, have acidity. The acidity is what we feel on the side of the tongue, the salivation. So the more we saw that salivation, saliva, the more saliva we have, the more acidity is in the wine. White wine tend to have more acidity because the freshness. Red wine, they tend to have less acidity, and also acidity is what balances the alcohol on the wine. So sometimes we can have this amount of acidity in a red wine, but because you got more alcohol content, that acidity is felt less than the equivalent in a white wine because the alcohol content is lower. Now again, the acidity is important not only to balance it out the alcohol content, but also for the conservation of the wine. Last thing to mention about the acidity is for the sparkling wine, we require wine that they got higher acidity and less sugar content. So to obtain those grapes and to make those wines, we harvest the grapes earlier. In fact, sparkling wines, grapes are harvested 2-3 weeks early, depending on where we are. Obviously, the climate, as I mentioned already, the climate change is affecting the winemaking process as well. And so winemaker, to avoid to get high sugar content, which would be way too much for white wine and especially for sparkling wine, you need to anticipate the harvesting to get that acidity necessary for the wine to be drinkable. So all those elements we kind of mentioned today. So alcohol, acidity, and tannins are all important. Always remember that they need to be balanced. We never want to look at them in absolute terms, but they all need to be balanced. So high alcoholic wine, high alcohol content wine will require higher acidity, and we don't want that to be too much acidity and too little alcohol. Otherwise, acidity will be too much. So okay, I think this is it for this video. Next video we're gonna talk about orange wine, and I'll be tasting an orange wine. Salute.